Welcome to the Dream Life is Real Life podcast. I'm your host, Hanna Hermanson. I know it might seem cheesy or cliche, but if you've got a sleeping giant inside of you, or you just feel like you're made for more, then there's no coincidence you landed here on the Dream Life is Real Life podcast. Listen, as a girl from small town Wisconsin who decided to go all in to her dream life vision, I know how crazy it can feel to chase after wild ideas. Since leaving my 9-to-5 job in academics back in 2015 to becoming a yoga teacher, a life coach, and now a digital nomad, currently living in Merida, Mexico with my husband and Labradoodle, I know that all the cheesy cliches are true. I've watched a lot of my dream life become my real life right in front of my eyes. Oh, and I've learned a whole lot about sales, business, and marketing along the way, and I want to share all of that with you. So here, you can consider me your friend and mentor. As a certified business coach, success trainer, international speaker, author, and copywriter, I've helped hundreds of coaches and entrepreneurs build, scale, and enjoy their online businesses. So here on the show, you'll find the real people, concrete tactics, and weekly motivation and inspiration to make your dream life your real life. I'm going to let you into the nooks and crannies of these dream lives and dream businesses and offer lots of real talk along the way. Because to be a true leader in whatever you're endeavoring in your life and to create a legacy that you're proud of, you need a tribe lifting you up with you on the journey. And I've made it my mission to be that partner with you. Because after all, we are all in this together. By the way, if you'd like some help improving your business and life, then we just might be able to help. Head on over to dreamlifeisreallife.com to learn more about what we do and how I might be able to personally support you and just continue this conversation in making your dream life your real life. All right, let's get to it. Hey friends, today I want to introduce you to Rita Farrugia, who is a lover of life and the CEO and founder of happybeingwell.com with a mission of being the #1 self-care community in the world. Her mission is to awaken 1 billion people globally to their own love while teaching them how to reprogram their subconscious, align with truth, play with the universal laws, and create a daily self-care practice. It's through a commitment of her own daily self-care that she's been able to create all of this. And she sees the potential and the opportunity that we all have when we can eliminate the noise of the world, stress, anxiety, and all of our rapid thoughts. Because this allows us to be able to align with our personal truth, love, clarity, focus, intuition, confidence, and really become who we're here to be, right? So this process does allow us to know who we are. It deepens our compassion and our ability to love ourselves, love our neighbor, raise the consciousness, all the things. Welcome to the show, Rita.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And as someone who teaches self-care, I'm sure it started with a personal experience or something that inspired you to make this your mission. So when did self-care enter your world? What's the backstory?
Well, for me, self-care is such an integrated approach. And so I think, honestly, I think when you think about it, we've all been doing self-care since we were, like being able to wash our own face and brush our own teeth, right? That is a part of self-care. And I mention that because the more and more I strengthen my personal development journey, the more and more I was better able to take care of myself. Because I was, when I had blinders on, when I had self-worth issues, I was so focused on the external world that I really wasn't really taking care of myself. And then, of course, when you get into learning about personal development, you just kind of regurgitate what you hear the gurus say, okay? And you really don't understand what it really means. you're just, I went through this, and I see, when you do the actual work, when you actually understand what that means in terms of expanding your consciousness, to be able to live in peace, you have to literally do, like, ask yourself questions, like, be more present as to, why am I doing this? Is this giving me peace? Is this causing me stress? And a lot of people, including myself, once upon a time, I didn't really realize when I was stressed out, when I did have anxiety, I just lived life. I just, went through that routine of life, do complete my to-do list, or just numb it out with Netflix, or numb it out with, okay, it's time for bed. It's, numb it with food, right? So it definitely was like building blocks to kind of get to the point of committing to self-care and literally doing the work, and then like really taking care of myself, like, and investing into products to take care of my skin, to have it glow and look youthful. In fact, I look younger than I did, probably a few years ago. Just because of that journey, to just not let the external get me so rattled up and be so stressed out. Yeah, honestly, like, because then I was really being empowered to actually live in my inner peace and live in my own truth, and not literally let the external world hypnotize me into thinking this is what I want, this is what I desire, or allowing past traumas to kind of dictate and control my behavior, that leads to basically destruction and chaos and confusion. Because you're fixating on some kind of external, whether it's an event or it's a person or it's a thing, that you're trying to turn around to get that, either unconditional love or whatever it is that you think is going to fulfill you. But you're just living in an illusion. And and I see like a lot of, because I have my podcast too, and I run across people. We've all run across people who are teaching spiritual stuff or teaching whatever, maybe they're business coach, and they don't actually embody the truth, because they're just maybe still stuck in that, learning the buzzwords, saying the buzzwords, but they didn't really do the inner work.
Yeah.
So
and that's so hard to explain, that embodiment piece. Like, I can totally relate to the Pinterest cliches of, like, I had a tote bag 10 years ago that was like, be the change you wish to see in the world. And I was like representing that everywhere. And then it wasn't until I had a personal life experience of seeing how my own healing heals the people around me. And it's still like the same idea. Like, you got to change yourself if you want to change but it's like, you can't put words to it, and the cliches are all true and you can say it, and wear it. But it is that like embodiment piece. And I think it's so beautiful when people can take that inner experience and translate it out into something more than just like a cliche, because it sounds like you, in your own embodying, were then able to help others. And this self-care thing became something that you started to share. So I'd love to know how you went from the inner to the outer in something that feels so inner, right? Being able to share the embodiment. Mm-hmm. Do you have any memory or that kind of transition from like, okay, I'm ready to share this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, okay. So if you don't sort out your distortions, we all, if we don't sort out, I would say, the traumas, and first you have to identify what traumas are, and they don't have to be, and because I got stuck in this too. I always thought, oh, like, it's, if I never encountered violence before or something major, it's, you don't have to have major traumatic events to sustain a certain event in your personal past history that led to a certain behavior or a certain belief or a certain whatever value or values conflict. So when we don't acknowledge those, which live in our unconscious, subconscious mind, we will we'll have distorted thinking that leads to, this is where people get stuck in procrastination. They get stuck in turning down opportunities that will advance their career or their business. They get stuck in focusing on things that are not going to bring in success for them. It's going to just not bring them anywhere, because the unconscious is the main driver of our human behavior. How I started to flip that around was when I, say I'm in a situation with people and somebody maybe said something and I'm being triggered. I started, why am I getting so angry? It's their stuff, right? Because you go from certain levels to personal development, to empowerment, to self-discovery. First, you listen to a podcast like this, or a book, or a seminar. It's just it's like people who smoke. They know it's bad, but they still smoke, right? The knowledge is not enough. You actually have to implement it by being more present, like asking yourself questions, kind of observing, being the observer of yourself, right? Observing, how are you showing up in the world? I know that can be difficult, and it's a trained skill, because right now I'm talking to you. I'm listening to what you're saying. I have to respond to you. There's a camera in front of me. I'm cognizant of that. So I'm, trying, so it's right now my ego is a little bit on, right? Let's be real. We have to be real as human beings. We have this ego thing. So I'm being cognizant. How am I looking on camera? What did she say? So you have to develop and cultivate an observer mind and kind of observe yourself as to how you're showing up. How are you reacting to certain situations? And because those give you answers into your psyche. And once you identify, okay, why am I being triggered right now? What does this have to deal with? Okay, my grade 3 teacher said this, but whatever it is, let it come up. Trust your intuition and really just kind of let things go. And also too, especially when people are starting businesses and they don't really go, I see so many people, they're just they're not really doing something that is, I know this sounds cliche, but there's a cliche for a reason. They're not really doing something that's aligned with them, their values, their beliefs, what they're really passionate about. If you don't have that, you're not going to have that energy and fuel to do the amount of work that's required to be successful. Okay. Because it's work. I don't care if someone threw $10 million at you and you're going to hire, 20 employees off the bat. You still have to know how to, draft those job descriptions. You still have to know how to manage them. You still have to know how to cultivate a workplace culture that's aligned with your brand. You still have to know how to deal with people, and that requires work, and it requires, your attention, your energy. And if you're doing, I just feel like when people are just doing something they're just copying something that's maybe the hot trend or whatever, and they don't really represent that brand. That's when things kind of just can get irky.
Yeah. It really sounds like everything starts with your self-awareness and being willing to show up for that inner game, that inner work, not just until you get to a certain point. Cause like you said, people could hand you the money, but then you're still the same thing. Everywhere you go, there you are. And this is something I've been thinking about in my business a lot, is that my job is the inner job. Sales is an energetic game. And I think that we always look to the external first, or in our society, we look to the shiny object, the guru, like you said. And this exercise of introspection is something I totally missed at the beginning of my business that is really serving me now, but it feels awkward still to think there's a problem in the business, external. I have to go internal to figure it out. Because I still sometimes want to like Google how to have a tough conversation or things like that. And it's like, back to the inner work. Do you resonate with that, or do you think that's true?
Absolutely. I truly, really believe that what is inside of us really does, if we project the reality based on, what's inside of us, like how we feel, how we think. If we're in a scarcity mentality versus abundance mentality. Okay. So for me, this is what I believe too. Like I have kind of an intimate type of experience with this too. I had a family member, and this is what people can do too. Like if you, everything that we do, every action that we do, it's sending a message to our unconscious mind. So this is why I'm so big on mindset, because we really do reflect, our reality reflects our mindset, our inner beliefs and values. So actually I did have a family member who was just, unfortunately, didn't cultivate their own self-worth or cultivate their self-discovery process, or, just really just be empowered within themselves and kind of be more of an independent thinker. Or they never really, I don't know how to, I guess, cultivate their personality. They're just constantly running around with chasing after external things. And so their life strategy was to just always copy what I was doing, right? And wanting what I was doing. And that is coming from a place of, let's examine that place of scarcity. They haven't achieved success because they're not aligned with who they are. You can't, Oprah said it perfectly. Oprah, she was Oprah, and she literally said, everyone always asks her, like, how did you become so successful? I mean, she's truly, truly an icon with the media. She's built a huge empire as a result of, having that iconic TV show. And she said, I couldn't be Barbara Walters. I couldn't be Diane Sawyer. I was just Oprah. And because she did admit, like in the beginning, that she was like trying to, because she didn't know, what she was kind of doing in the beginning. So, she would see, I guess you could say, role models. But then she realized, I can't be them, and no one's going to want to watch another version of Barbara who's not Barbara. So she started to embrace who she was, and she had to get to know who she was, and she was able to express who she was. And Oprah has a very, very powerful voice. She's a very powerful influence. So just an example, because I'm sure, you can ask every successful entrepreneur, or even just anybody who's successful in their career, honestly, like, you have to truly, truly, truly just really get to know yourself and really just be empowered from that place, because then you're going to be able to make the right decisions. You're not going to live in the place of self-doubt. Oh my God, when you're building a business, there's 1,000 different ways to build a business. There's 1,000 different marketing agencies to hire. There's 1,000 different ways to advertise and blow. You can burn money like crazy. We all know that. So you have to, if you don't really get to know yourself and trust your intuition, you may not make the smartest decisions. And in order to make the smart decisions, you have to cultivate that self-awareness, that self-discovery, and just embrace and celebrate you. And whatever you do, whatever action you do, whatever you decide to build, whatever business you take on, whatever it is, make sure it's aligned with you. And in fact, we hear that from Shark Tank. If anybody's watched Shark Tank, you'll hear the investors say, look, I don't know anything about that industry. I'm not aligned with those values. I'm not aligned with, I don't really kind of, it doesn't really get my motor going. Like I'm not really passionate about that. So I can't invest in that. So it just goes to show, like, I think this is overlooked for some reason. I just always see all these people just oh my God, what's the next new TikTok strategy that's going to make millions of dollars?
Yes.
Or the Instagram reel. Like, come on, we all know there's no such thing as there's no secret in business.
Yeah, those shiny objects.
There's no secret in business. There's no secret. There's no secret.
Totally. You and I are so aligned in that. And I talk about marketing, but I never talk about hashtag strategies or algorithm. I'm like you and talking about these like universal truths, like the laws that you talk to clients about as well. And that with business, it's about relationships. You can build it a billion different ways these days, but at the end of the day, are you making a real connection with real people? And you have to know yourself, like you're saying, to know how you want to approach, how you want to start that relationship. But it's amazing how these cliches, as we're saying, are life truths. And I would love to know from you, because I still think it's just, we can talk about this in the like clouds and like, yeah, the cliches are true and these like generalities. But I'd love to hear from you if there's like an action or like one exercise that we can do to flex that introspection. Because this idea, you said something about how you don't really know what you want. You just know what you think other people want. You have your vision board is like, I should have 3 houses. Your vision board is I should have a family. And especially in business, I see this tension between I want to go for this big goal, hit $1 million. And then this real feeling of like, but I want to like have a quiet, slower life and just like hang out with my plants sometimes. And so is there an exercise or some advice you would give people if they're feeling that tension of like, this is what I should want, I don't know if it's right, to check in and find that truth for themselves?
I can only speak to my experience around that. So, with me, I think, life really, relationships are really, truly the most important thing in the relationship we have with ourselves, even in business. When building a business, the most important thing is it's really about building relationships. Building a relationship with the vendors that you choose, or, the marketing agency that you're choosing, or, if you have got your own employees, the relationships you're cultivating with your employees. I mean, so they want to work, hard for you and put in that creative energy. Like they're inspired to do so. They're inspired to put their best foot forward. If you don't cultivate relationships in a healthy way, they're not going to want to put their best foot forward, in that relationship with you. And it doesn't feel good. And it just leads to, again, chaos. So for me, it was, for me, I had to, in order, when I catapulted in business, I literally had to cut off, when I say cut off all the toxic relationships, including romantic friendships, even family too. That is when I just energy catapulted.
That's huge.
Because I didn't, once I cut that off, and I hit a point when it's like enough is enough. Like these relationships burn you out, and it's just you're completely got burnt out, drained, and really seeing the consequences of it. But that's when I learned about myself. I'm like, okay, why did I stay in this for so long? Because some people don't even entertain these types of relationships. They literally just, bye. So that's when I got to know, okay, what is this about? Oh, this was about when I was growing up, and, I was trying to flip around, it was the original relationship, usually related to childhood, trying to get that unconditional love and attention from, a parent. And that is what really kind of that is about. And I didn't really realize it. So you get to know yourself more. I'm like, okay. And, and the environment that I speak of was it wasn't very obvious. It was very subtle, where you're not really getting a lot of emotional support or whatever, and you get used to you have to understand, what kind of person do I have to become? Typically it's always a child in your childhood to adopt those traits, like to tolerate that. Why did I? You have to, and then you let it go. You let it release. Once you go through that, once you ask yourself the questions, like, what kind of person do I have to become as a result of those events? And this is why I'm fixated on trying to flip it around with these individuals. You're just basically, so that's just one example coming from my life experiences. And so now, it really does give you more energy, the ability to appreciate healthy relationships and cultivate healthy relationships. And yeah, it's just one thing. It's just asking yourself questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And looking at your patterns, like you said, like where is this coming from, right? The external relationship or environment is that mirror for us to ask ourselves good questions. And I think that is the simple yet complex solution to so many of the things we see going on in our world, and why I'm so inspired by your vision of helping 1 billion people wake up to this sort of work. So if people are vibing with you and like, yeah, I've got some questions to ask, I need, to love life more like Rita, where can listeners go to continue this conversation with you and learn more about the work that you're up to?
Yeah, they can go to my website, happybeingwell.com. Of course, it's we sell self-care products, organic self-care products. We do have a resources webpage section where you can get more inspiration, more education around overcoming your limiting beliefs. There are free ebooks down. There's I believe right now like 10 ebooks there, all on wellness and personal development, on how to overcome your limiting beliefs, how to banish imposter syndrome, a free self-care journal, a meditation made easy guide, along with other like wellness books such as essential oils and plant-based recipes and such. So, and I have a Happy Being Well podcast where it's all about, wellness, personal development, free guided meditations. Guests come on sharing their transformational stories of how they went from victor to victor, and what techniques they utilize to overcome their traumas, obstacles. And then I talk a whole bunch, just me on there as well, about increasing your intuition, increasing your self-worth. So it's in the Happy Being Well podcast can be found on Apple iTunes or Spotify.
Amazing. Yes, we will make sure folks can get all the goods over at happybeingwell.com, because this was a wealth of information that you shared with us today. So folks can go get those resources that you generously shared. We appreciate you, Rita. And listeners, I'll be back next week with another inspiring guest that will help you make your dream life your real life. And don't forget to hop on over to dreamlifeisreallife.com/show for specific goodies that we talked about today and access to continue the conversation with these guests as well as myself. I cannot wait to see what you create. Until next time.